Hello and welcome to the Film Pulse Podcast. This is episode number 376. My name's Adam Patterson. With me today we got Kevin Rakestraw. Hey, Kevin.
Hey.
How's it going?
We're here.
Indeed we are. This week on the show, we'll be taking a look at RZA's latest directorial effort, Cutthroat City. We'll also be going over some we're watching on the watch list and new releases on VOD and Blu-ray. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Please remember to review us on iTunes if you get a moment. That would be very helpful. Just one bit of housekeeping. I think that we decided that we're going to take the week off next week. Is that correct? In order to prepare for Fantasia Festival, which we'll be covering on the site. Fantasia Festival officially launches on August 20th, and we have a whole slew of movies that we're going to be watching for that festival and covering a bunch of written reviews, and then we're going to try to cover a bunch of stuff on the show. So no show next week. Following week is going to be all Fantasia Festival, so there's going to be a lot of genre movies in there that we're going to discuss. I think we can jump into our review. Again, we're talking about Cutthroat City. This comes out on VOD platforms Friday. It's directed by RZA. I have a synopsis here. Set after Hurricane Katrina, four boyhood friends, out of options, reluctantly accept an offer to pull off a dangerous heist in the heart of New Orleans. Kevin, we'll start with you. What were your initial impressions of Cutthroat City?
Cutthroat City. I think the first thing that jumps out at you with this movie is the cast.
Oh, yeah.
You got an extensive cast here.
Big time.
Some great people. And because of that, you get some really great performances in here. And I think that really helps this movie. Definitely kept me engaged. Because like the narrative aspect of it, the filmmaking aspect of it was, serviceable. Like it was well enough for what they were trying to do. But I think the cast definitely helps out.
Absolutely.
Definitely beneficial for a lot of these people to be in this movie.
Yeah, the cast elevates it extremely. I think that it's a good script too. I think that the narrative beats, like the overall plot, I agree. It is it's fine. Like there's nothing new here. It's essentially a heist movie, but I think that the script is well written enough that it allows a lot of these actors to really shine. Even some of the smaller characters in this. So you have Ethan Hawke in there, Wesley Snipes, Isaiah Washington, Terrence Howard, Shameik Moore, T.I.'s in there, which this was a huge surprise to me because T.I. plays sort of one of the villains of the movie. His name's Cousin in it, and he does such a good job in this. I was so surprised, and I think that is largely due to, again, the script. I think that T.I.'s dialogue in this is done in such a way that it really allows him to show off as an actor and kind of really show his abilities as an actor.
Yeah.
So what you have here is a movie that it begins right before Katrina and it picks up after Katrina just absolutely devastates New Orleans, and it takes place in the Ninth Ward, which is an area, the lower income area that was hit really, really hard by Katrina. And I mean, to this day, it's like there's still problems there.
Yeah. Oh.
And so it follows this group of friends who are really struggling to make ends meet in this area that's just been decimated, and there's very little help. Shameik Moore plays the lead, and he is a very good artist, and he's trying to sell comic books, and he's trying to get his career off the ground. But of course, he's hitting roadblocks every which way because he's a black guy from the Ninth Ward, and they just aren't afforded opportunities. And you have there's also a really great scene where they actually go to FEMA to try to get some of the FEMA support, and they get denied for some reason, which I'm sure was happening left and right for people that needed it. So it's a movie that has a good bit to say. I think how well it says it, I'm not sure, but I thought that it was pretty effective for the most part.
Yeah, definitely for the most part. I mean, again, like you said, it's fine. It works pretty well. It's just, to me, it felt like it was missing something. Like there just wasn't. There's really no kind of like twists. Like there is some, but they don't come off as like these whirlwind twists that
Mhm.
just like make you reevaluate everything that's going on.
And
From the outset, you pretty much know who's in whose pocket and who's working for who.
yeah,
That type of deal.
I'm glad you brought that up because that was a little bit of a point of frustration for me, was that it's it sort of sets itself up for some sort of revelation. So like the whole time I'm watching
Yeah.
it, I found myself like frequently wanting for some like big twist or revelation that just simply never came. Like there's this false sense of complexity about the movie where you have all these players. So you have multiple players involved where like Ethan Hawke plays this like councilman, and then Terrence Howard plays this gangster guy known as the Saint. And you are never quite sure like where people's alliances lie, because then you have, T.I., who's like the sort of drug dealing gangster guy, and then you have Rob Morgan as this corrupt detective guy, and you're never sure where these allegiances quite lie, but it never really materializes into anything. So ultimately you're just left like, all right, well, I thought that there was going to be some twist here where like this guy was actually in cahoots with this guy, but it never really goes anywhere with it.
No, and I think it's not necessarily that you don't know where like their allegiances lie. I think it's like they kind of set it up where they're like, okay, this guy's working with this guy. The cops are doing this, and it kind of sets it up. But it kind of sets it up in the sense that, okay, this is actually it's going to change at any moment. It's going to be, there's going to be this revelation. You're going to find out that these two are actually in cahoots. Like the dynamic's going to completely change at any moment. But it never does. It always stays like, this is what they're doing. And it's like you said, it ends up being this false sense of complexity within the story. And it's just like, oh no, everything was just the way that it was set up at the beginning. And for some reason, people are helping out people that probably shouldn't be. Like,
Yeah.
I was kind of confused with like the cops like helping. That just seemed odd.
It was, but I think it helps speak to the amount of corruption that was and probably still is happening in New Orleans.
Yeah, which I think is like maybe like this like fantasy twist on it, because I'm just like, in my eyes, I'm thinking, I think with the police it would just be like full on corruption for the most part. I don't know if I would see them working together to help people.
Well, I think that they tried to explain that a little bit with Ethan Hawke's character and the fact that he was in a really vulnerable state and he lost his wife and he was trying to make amends for his past sins. So I think that he was looking at this as an opportunity. I think he even says it. I think he says that he's looking for absolution in helping these kids out. And of course, as a councilman, he has a lot of power, and I guess he has Rob Morgan in his pocket to help facilitate this stuff. And this is where I thought that there was going to be some double crossing, but that's not really how it all plays out.
Yeah.
But I will say again, just to reiterate, just to sort of underscore the performances in this, like they give everybody ample opportunity. Like they give everyone their own moment. Like there's at least one moment where you have a really great monologue from most of these characters. And I think that that's one of the film's biggest strengths, is these really great monologues like that you have with Terrence Howard and Ethan Hawke and even Wesley Snipes, who I think he's ready for a comeback personally. Like between his role in this movie and Dolomite Is My Name. Yeah, between those two performances, I feel like Snipes, we need him to come back.
Just start putting him in everything. Do it.
He needs to be in
Coward.
he needs to be in the right roles though. Like I think that they need to give him more roles like this and like what he had in Dolomite Is My Name. Like not leading actor, action roles, but just
No,
some kind
no, I
of
definitely would like to see him in more comedies, more
yeah.
comedic roles.
Because he was in. I mean, his role in this movie, he plays Shamik Moore's dad, and he plays it humorously. Like there's definitely some comedy in his character in this movie. I think that RZA is starting to come into his own as a director. I think that like his influences are still sort of worn on his sleeve. Like, I mean, there's even a conversation in this movie about Tarantino and Tarantino movies, and I feel like he still he sort of adopted that style where there's a few conversations in this movie that don't particularly pertain to the plot immediately, and it's just sort of banter between people about specific subjects. And I love how he always tries to, like, he'll always inject the things that he's passionate about in his movies. Like you see there's like a chess game in it, and then there's a really great metaphor that they used in during the chess game where he was saying like don't leave the queen unprotected and stuff. And there's like a scene where you see like some kung fu movie playing in the background, and I just love those little kind of Wu-Tang inspired Easter eggs in there too.
Yeah, it's just and I mean, I think this is the first movie I've ever seen by RZA, to be honest, that he's directed.
Well, it's only his third movie.
Yeah, but just to say that I haven't seen the first two, and I was kind of a little bit surprised, unfortunately so, that, that this movie just seemed to have a lack of like distinct style.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I didn't know, and then at the end of it you were like, this movie was directed by RZA, I'd be like, no, it wasn't. Because I feel like at least with the Man with the Iron Fist, even though I didn't see that movie, like even from like trailers and stuff, images that I've seen from the movie, I'm like, okay, that has a very distinct style.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I was thinking going into Cutthroat City. I was like, at least this is going to have a very distinct style to it, But it kind of came off as, any other heist movie, just with a far superior cast.
Yeah, which is actually kind of funny because the opening credits are a little misleading because you see those opening credits and you're just like, oh yeah, this is gonna be one slick movie. Because I really liked the opening credits, but no, it ends up feeling pretty standard. I think that you can definitely see some Tarantino influences in there still, and with The Man with the Iron Fist, that was very heavily Tarantino inspired. And then I was also feeling a little Spike Lee in there as well, especially with like the narration that comes on at the end and stuff, where he lays out the intentions of the movie very specifically, and just so there's like no room for interpretation, no room for like misinterpretation. Like, this is what this movie's about. And I appreciate that in Spike Lee movies. I think that maybe it was a little bit too intense with the messaging in this. I think he could have dialed it back and made it a little bit more subtle. But I also think that this was maybe could have used another edit.
Yeah. Again, I was expecting some more style, some more flourishes.
Yeah, you don't have too many in there. Like there's a couple things here and there, a couple things that I feel like didn't work at all. Like there's a really awkward freeze frame that happens at one point, and there's some really weird fading that happens in it too towards the end. And I felt like that didn't work. There's a lot of handheld work in this, which I thought was a little bit of a mixed bag. Well, that's really all I have to say about Cutthroat City. I think it's worth a look on performances alone, and it's a pretty big crime epic, I would say. Like, there's a lot going on in this movie. It's over 2 hours long.
Because the whole like the heist thing that's kind of talked about in the synopsis, which is kind of a misdirect too, because going into it, you're kind of thinking this like, okay, I'm kind of envisioning this as like what you would think of in terms of a heist movie, which is, that's my own failing. But you kind of think, it's going to be structured like a heist film, but the heist that they're talking about in the synopsis is very early on. It's very quick. There's not a whole lot to it. And then there's a lot of stuff after the fact. Like, that's like actually what's happening in this movie. The heist is barely even a thing, to be honest.
Can we just talk for a second about Demetrius Shipp Jr. and how uncanny his resemblance is to Tupac?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know he played Tupac in the biopic, but holy shit.
It's distracting.
I mean, he's a straight up doppelganger.
It's very bizarre.
I actually didn't see All Eyes on Me, but I've seen plenty of like trailers and clips from it and stuff. So I knew that he looked and talked and had the same mannerisms as Tupac, but this is the first movie I've seen him in where he's not being Tupac, and it made me realize like, holy shit, that's just like how he is. Like he's just straight up Tupac's doppelganger.
Yeah. It's something else.
And it's pretty incredible. Any final thoughts before we give this a score?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. For me, I'm sitting at right around a 6 out of 10 on this one.
Okay. And that was another surprising thing, to be honest, with this movie. I thought there would be more to say about it. You know what I mean? Like, I thought that there would be a lot here, considering the cast, considering the director, considering the story.
Yeah, I mean, it's more drama than anything. Like, there's a lot more drama than action in it. You do get to see a guy get his dick bitten off by a raccoon, so...
I mean, there is raccoon fighting, which I didn't know is a thing.
I didn't either. Did not either.
I want to know is that based on something? Like, is there actual like raccoon fighting rings, or was that just an imagination thing from the mind of RZA?
I don't know.
Raccoon fighting.
I hope not. Like, I hope it was just a made up thing.
Yeah, but people fight all sorts of stuff.
I know.
Yeah, for me, it's like a 5.
All right, straight
kind of down the middle.
Straight down the middle for you.
Like,
okay.
Yeah, outside of like some really solid performances. Again, like you said, I was surprised by T.I. as well. I think he plays a really, really good villain in this movie. And then, of course, it's always good to see Rob Morgan, and he gets a good bit to do in this, which was nice. But I feel like towards the end of this year, or maybe even towards the end of this month, there's not going to be a whole lot stuck in my mind about this movie. I don't think it's going to stick. Yeah,
unfortunately, it's very rare that a movie can be held up on performances alone, and I think that that's the case here. You have a really great cast who all deliver really great performances, but I just don't feel like the story is quite there. All right, let's talk about someone we're watching. I think it might be my turn this week.
Well, guess what? It has to be, because I ain't watched nothing outside of like Fantasia movies, but that's going to be its own thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I can kind of talk a little bit about X-Files if you want. If you'll have me, I will.
Yeah, absolutely. Always down for some X-Files talk.
I'll hit you with a couple of things here and there.
I saw The Pale Door. This is a movie that's coming out on Friday. This is directed by Aaron B. Coons. I'll have a review for this up on the site this week. This is a very rare thing, and that's a Western horror movie. There's not enough.
Okay.
Not enough Western horror movies. We've had Bone Tomahawk. We've had Tremors 4. Where are the other Western horror movies? And I don't mean like folk horror movies that happen to take place during that time period, like The Wind or any of those other movies. I mean, like straight up cowboys, train robbing, Western. Anyway, this is a mashup of a Western and a horror movie where you have this band of outlaws who rob a train, and they think that they made away with this trunk full of loot. They stole it from the Pinkertons, and they open up this trunk thinking there was going to be gold, and nope, it's a young woman tied up, and she has this like face mask thing on, and they're just like, what is going on here? What are we doing? Well, the leader of the outlaws ends up getting shot during the robbery, and he's in bad shape. And she says, if you let me go, I can take you to my village. We have doctors there. We can patch him up, fix him up good. So they follow her. They go to this village. It's like the town's dead. It's a dead town, except for the brothel. The brothel is hopping. There's all these women, beautiful women in the brothel. They go in. They just start showering these guys with alcohol and food, and the ladies are all over them. And guess what? It's a coven of witches, and they all get attacked in various horrific ways by these witches. And so you have these outlaws that have to survive against this coven of witches. Really cool idea. I really liked the premise of this. You have some really cool people in here. No. Noah Segan is in there. He plays one of the outlaws. You have Pat Healy in there, who's another one of the outlaws. So you have a pretty solid cast in there too. I think the movie falters a bit when it doesn't just fully embrace the Western horror thing. It too often will try to go into dramatic territory and have these like really heartfelt talks between some of the people, specifically like the leader, like his younger brother is brought in, and like there's just all this kind of familial drama that's happening, and all of these like sort of like these pseudo sentimental moments that these characters have. And I think that it's unfortunate because it just sort of goes against what this movie truly is, and that's a crazy witch Western horror movie. And so I feel like it just doesn't fully embrace that. So it comes very, very close to being like flat out awesome, but it just slightly misses the mark.
Man,
I still had fun with it.
I was, yeah, I gotta say I was pretty excited, but I could tell that the way that you were kind of discussing in the beginning that there's going to be a butt in there, a failure in execution somehow. Because the idea of outlaws versus witches. Come on.
and there's like some of the like set piece. It felt very much like From Dusk Till Dawn to me. There's this like initial thing like when the witches reveal themselves. And it feels very much like From Dusk Till Dawn, where they're fighting in this brothel. A large portion of the movie takes place in the brothel. And these witches are like crawling on the ceilings, and like it's just, pandemonium in there. But there's also like these really cool things. Like, they're witches. So they're like casting spells on the people and stuff. And like they trick one of the characters into eating glass, and he thought it was beef jerky, and he's like eating pieces of glass and stuff. So there's a lot of really cool moments in this, but it just slightly misses the mark when it tries to bring in all of these sort of earnest like moments.
I don't have any way to tie that into X-Files. I didn't have any X-Files episodes that dealt with outlaws and or witches or the Wild West. So I'm empty-handed on that one.
I feel like there's probably one somewhere in the series. How far are you into it at this point?
I haven't got to it at that point, I think. No, I don't want to tell you, because then you'll just laugh at me and you'll be like, that's it? That's as far as you are?
Yeah, you're playing it up like you were just watching X-Files nonstop.
For the entirety of my life. But that's not really true. I don't have a lot of time. You would think that I would, but I don't.
I feel like have you made it past the first season yet?
No.
Okay. I was just gonna say I think season 2 is where it really starts getting its stride, but I mean there's still plenty of great episodes in season 1.
No, episode or season 1 is like, honestly, for me, I didn't watch X Files like as a kid. My brother was really, really into X Files. He was obsessed with it, so he had to watch it every time it was on. I didn't really watch it because it freaked me out. I did like it was too scary for me. So I never really watched it outside of like an episode here and there. So this was the idea of like, okay, I'm a man now, or approaching one, like a semblance of a man, that I can handle X
I
Files
want to
now.
conquer
Hopefully,
this.
right? I'm gonna get this badge for my stash. But the interesting thing is with like the first season, it's really I don't want to say hit or miss, but like the effects work and stuff that they try and do from episode to episode is like the quality is, man, it wildly goes across the spectrum. Like there's some stuff that's just ridiculous looking and it's just corny as all hell. And you're just like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, how did this show make it? And then there's other episodes where they just nail everything perfectly, like atmosphere, uh, like the effects works, everything. And you're just like, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. This is so good. But then it's followed up by an episode that's just really fucking dumb. And you're like, okay.
My favorite are always the Monster of the Week episodes, like the sort of self-contained episodes, rather than the like government conspiracy, alien, like overarching narrative episodes.
Well, and that's what it is like with the first season. It seems like they're not 100% sure what they want to do with this show, because it's like they come back to the government stuff. Like that's always in every episode. But I don't know, like I was honestly thinking that this was more so paranormal stuff, or with extraterrestrials and everything. But there's some interesting choices being made in this first season. But I did watch it was their version of The Thing, their episode, which is just a complete remake of The Thing.
Yeah.
Which is fun.
Yeah,
it was really fun.
When I was revisiting the series, I remember that episode. That was a really good episode.
Yeah, I didn't know that they did that. So like as soon as they set it up, within the first, which the effects in that episode, some are great, like the creature stuff, and then some of it's just really fucking terrible, just awful. And like as soon as they set it all up, I'm just like, this is The Thing. This is great. Love it.
I saw Peninsula. Now, I don't think I'm going to get too much into this. This was a movie that we were going to cover this week instead of Cutthroat City, but like Cutthroat City was a backup, and we didn't get a chance to watch Peninsula because there were reasons behind why we couldn't make it work for this episode.
Should we do a little inside baseball and how screeners have changed over the years?
Yeah,
and
so
for some reason they seem to have gotten like far more difficult than they need to be.
Yeah, so the release date for Peninsula got pushed back. I can't remember what the original release was, but it got pushed back, and because of that, the screener link expired, and I had to get them to renew it, and then after they renewed it, it expired again after like a day, and Kevin didn't get to see the movie. So that's sort of what happened.
And it just sucks because like I was very, because usually I'm just fast and loose. Like I usually don't ask you beforehand. Like I'll just start a movie and I'll watch like 15 minutes of it and be like, okay, I got stuff to do. Shut the computer down, and then you'll be like, God damn it, Kevin, you fucking idiot. That was a one-time thing. I'm like, oh, sorry. But this, I took the precautions, and it still didn't work.
Yeah, sometimes there's a lot of limits on them, and this one unfortunately it didn't work. I did get a chance to see it though. I'm gonna have a written review up on the site probably today or tomorrow. So this is directed by Yan Sang-ho. He's the same guy who did Train to Busan, which this is a sequel to. It takes place 4 years after the events of Train to Busan. And in my review, I sort of compared this to The Raid versus The Raid 2. Whereas in Train to Busan, you have it's a very fast, very kinetic, contained movie. Most of the movie takes place on the train, right? And then and that's how The Raid is. It's in one apartment building. Then in The Raid 2, the whole thing opens up and you have car chases and big gunfights and all of these other things, and it turns into almost this crime epic. And that's sort of how it is with Peninsula as well. Like the whole world opens up. Because it takes place 4 years after the zombie apocalypse, we're in sort of the like Mad Max world, like Land of the Dead, if you've seen that, where the zombies just took over all of Korea, and you have this team going into Korea in order to get this truck that's filled with money, US dollars, millions of dollars, and they're trying to get this truck off of the peninsula. And they have 3 days to do it. So you have this team of people going in, they get attacked by zombies, but guess what? The zombies aren't their biggest problem. It's the people that are surviving there because they're all like crazed psycho killers by this point. And they kidnap people and they force them to fight zombies for sport. And you have some really awesome set pieces in this. If you've seen the trailer for this, you'll have an idea. There's these really freaking out of control car battles, Mad Max style car chases, and those there's like 2 of them in the movie, but those alone are worth seeing this because they're just so energetic, so crazy, tons of fun. This is a good movie. I hesitate to say that I liked it more than the first one. I didn't like it more than the first one, but this is still a really solid entry. It's very tonally different than the first one as well. This is very action heavy. Lots of shooting and gunfights and stuff like that in the aforementioned car chases, which in Train to Busan, I don't think there was like any shooting at all. I think that they were just like bashing the zombies with their fists. I remember there's a lot of zombie punching in that movie. So yeah, Peninsula, it comes out this week. I definitely recommend checking it out. It is a Shudder movie, so I imagine that this is going to be popping up on Shudder in the not too distant future as well.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
Game changer.
Yeah, and portions of this are in English too, which I found kind of interesting.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I think that it's partially due to the fact that the main characters end up becoming refugees and having to go to Hong Kong. So because there's a language barrier there, everybody just sort of speaks English.
Gotcha.
Yeah, check it out, Peninsula. All right, let's take a look at what we have on VOD this week. Got a number of notable releases here. First up, we have Skin, A History of Nudity in the Movies. That's obviously a documentary on nudity in movies. We have The Barge People. That's a horror movie. We have A Life of Endless Summers, the Bruce Brown story. That's the guy who did the Endless Summer movies, if you couldn't tell by the title. I loved the Endless Summer and the Endless Summer 2. Loved them.
I don't know what these are.
They're surfing documentaries. Surfing documentaries.
Oh. Nah,
but they're like old. They're like old. You have Tracks. That's also on the 18th. And then on the 21st, you have The August Virgin. That's going to be a virtual theatrical release. You have Chemical Hearts. That's going to be on Amazon Prime. Tesla, which is the one with Ethan Hawke, where he plays Nikola Tesla. I'm interested in this. Kyle MacLachlan plays Thomas Edison. This one piqued my interest a little bit. It looks a little out there. Because from the trailer, it looks like they have cell phones and stuff. So it looks like they mix in like future technology into the biopic.
Okay.
So I'm very curious as to like how that works. If it was just some sort of like if it's organically fit in there, or if it's like dream sequences, or like how it all fits together. But I'll be checking that out. We have Stage Mother, Cutthroat City is coming out, and Peninsula is also coming out. I think that's about it for VOD. As always, check on the website at our VOD calendar for the latest. I need to update that. Obviously, with everything the way it is, there's tons and tons of movies coming in all the time. So I try to keep it up to date, but sometimes I get a few days behind. On Blu-ray this week, we have Gamera, the complete collection. This is Arrow box set. It's got 13 movies. It's all the Gamera movies.
Okay.
Never saw a single Gamera movie, so
Me either.
kind of interested in this. I think some of these are on HBO Max, maybe? I know that I saw them recently listed on a streaming service. We have Flash Gordon. That's a 4K release on Arrow. I never saw Flash Gordon either. Just never appealed to me.
Me either.
We have Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell from 1974. We have Deathstroke, Knights and Dragons, the movie.
Huh?
Deathstroke, Knights and Dragons, the movie.
Deathstroke.
Nah,
Knights
Deathstroke
and-
is a DC Comics character, so I'm assuming that this is an animated film. The interesting thing here is the putting the movie part into it. Like, is Deathstroke, Knights and Dragons the name of something else, like a comic book or a show or something? I'm not sure.
Just in case they don't want you to get confused. If you were looking for perhaps the TV show, perhaps the limited series,
Yeah.
whatever it may be, this is the movie.
It looks like it's in that same kind of Batman the Animated Series style, which I always like. So, might be worth a look. I haven't watched too many of the DC animated movies recently. I used to watch pretty much all of them, but I don't know, I kind of fell off. We have Soldier Blue from 1970. We got The Eagle and the Hawk from 1933. Pitch Black from 2000. That's going to be on Arrow. The Outpost from earlier this year. It's a war film. We got Backlash from 1956. The Red Ball Express from 1952. Prevenge is finally coming out on Blu-ray.
Really?
Mm-hmm. The Last House on the Left from 1972. That's the Wes Craven film. That's getting an Arrow release as well. Open 24 Hours. That's a horror film. Those Who Deserve to Die. The Barge People. Looks That Kill. Not Zilla. Guest of Honor. Kino Lorber's putting out Guest of Honor. That's the Adam Egoyan one. That's about it. What do we have on Criterion this week?
Oh, we got two. We have Paul Schrader's The Comfort of Strangers from 1990 getting released. Christopher Walken, Helen Mirren, Rupert Everett, Natasha Richardson. Never seen it. Never even heard of it, actually, to be honest.
Neither have
Paul
I.
Schrader movie I've never even heard of.
Yeah, neither have I. And I'm gonna be hopefully putting out a review on this very soon. I'm gonna be reviewing it for Criterion, so
Okay.
I'm
All
interested.
right. Okay. And then the other one is a documentary, Town Bloody Hall from 1979, which is Norman Mailer doing a kind of like this debate with four prominent female thinkers. And it was all this footage was shot by D.A. Pennebaker, and then it was kind of like condensed into a 3.5 hour. So if you're in the mood for a lengthy documentary on debating with Norman Mailer, it sounds so unappealing.
It sounds so dry.
To be honest,
So dry.
I don't want any part of it, because it's just going to be a bunch of people that are probably far smarter than Norman Mailer, and I have a feeling that it's just him being an asshole and just a bunch of arguing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, 3.5 hours of that, but I don't know. Maybe it's great. I could be wrong. It's just like,
Not
I guess
for me.
it could be fun in that way. 3.5 hours of Norman Malick and his ass handed to him.
Not for me. I'll stick with No Limit Chronicles and Rough Riders Chronicles.
Hell yeah.
Those
Definitely more edifying.
those are so entertaining. Those are actually really fascinating. All right, I think that's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. You can send us your questions and topics to podcast@filmpulse.net. You can follow us on Twitter @FilmPulseNet and @FilmPulseKevin. If you have a minute, consider giving us a review on iTunes. That would be super helpful. For Kevin Rakestraw, my name's Adam Patterson, and we'll see you later.